Immersed Robot.
Hello everyone, welcome to Immersed Robot. So this is No Man's Sky Sentinels update version 3.8, which was released just yesterday as I record this. And I just wanted to jump in here quickly just to have a quick look at some of the new anti-aliasing options that are available in No Man's Sky now. So they've added some more NVIDIA technology and AMD technology. So the NVIDIA technology they've added is DLAA, Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing. And this sort of complements in some ways what they added in a few updates ago with the DLSS, which is Deep Learning Supersampling. It works in a different way, as you can imagine. But then we've also got the AMD FSR anti-aliasing options, which complement temporal anti-aliasing in the menu, it seems. So I'm just going to have a quick look at this. Now, for anybody who watches this channel regularly and watches my sort of my footage on No Man's Sky, they'll probably know that I usually don't play with any anti-aliasing at all. I just don't like the blurring effect that comes with it generally. But let's just jump into the options, see what I've got going on here. So just on the FPS overlay, first of all, at the bottom of the screen, you can see that I'm running the Valve Index. It's in 90Hz mode, and it does generally stay on 90Hz, but at the moment it's jumping around a little bit. And I'm running SteamVR Supersampling at 100%, just so we've got like a standard level here, 90Hz at 100%. I usually sometimes I'll play this on actually 80Hz in the Valve Index at 150%, but for the purposes of this video I just wanted to get it at more standard settings really. So let's go into the graphics options, and I'm using the graphics preset of Enhanced. So if we look down here, everything is on Enhanced. Anisotropic filtering is on 2. I can't say that very well, sorry. GTAO is on Enhanced. And then we've got the standard anti-aliasing for the Enhanced preset, which is temporal anti-aliasing here. Now, this is straight in. We can see that if we've got the temporal anti-aliasing option selected, we can also select FSR here as well. But let's just have a quick look. Let's just go out before we do that, have a quick look at the frame timings and stuff as we wander around this area where I just am in my standard game at the moment. We had a little spike there, but that happens occasionally in No Man's Sky. So really, I mean, I suppose it's running more in 45 FPS reprojection here in this area on those standard enhanced settings. My usual settings for playing this game are a little bit lower than that preset actually, because I do like to get the native frame rate in this game. But we're looking at around 11 to 12 milliseconds on the GPU frame timing side, and around sort of anywhere between 11 13 milliseconds on the CPU. But that does change slightly as we wander around here. And as with any anti-aliasing in this game, I don't really quite like the slight blur that you get on temporal anti-aliasing, although it's probably the one of the better forms of anti-aliasing in No Man's Sky and any game really. But it does give a slight blur, which I personally don't like, but I know some people prefer than the shimmer in the pixel core that you'll get in without any anti-aliasing at all. But anyway, let's go back into the graphics options, and let's have a quick look first of all at this FSR. So we've got some presets here. So we've got ultra quality. Let's give that a try first. And straight off I can see that it's changed the colour of the grass. I don't know if that's supposed to happen. It might be a bug. I've seen that there are some bugs in colouring and things like that on this latest update. But you can see the frame timings are slightly better with this. Although it's more blurry than temporal anti-aliasing. Now, I know everybody's got an opinion on how we should use these more advanced anti-aliasing methods like FSR and DLSS. And in my last video about DLSS, I had so many conflicting comments giving advice on what I should do, how I should use it, the in-game settings, the Steam settings, and there were so many things that were going on that were conflicting with each other, so I'm not too sure if there's any sort of one consensus on that at the moment. But the frame timings are definitely better with this, I will say that, although it looks worse than temporal anti-aliasing. That's just my opinion straight off. Although I do like the grass colour better on this mode, it's got to be said. Okay, so still going down to those 45 FPS occasionally. It's still going into reprojection, so the frame timings are really on the edge of meeting that 11 millisecond threshold really. But anyway, so that's slightly better. Image quality slightly worse, I would personally say. Let's go into graphics options again, and this time we'll try, let's go all the way to performance this time. Now you shouldn't have to restart to get these any of these anti-aliasing options, I believe, and I can tell you now that is absolutely worse. So frame timings on the GPU side are much better. CPU is slightly better as well, it looks like, so we're able to, it sort of jumps up on the CPU side, it seems to. But image quality, I mean, it's poor, it's very poor on this setting. As you might expect, it's focusing more on performance, but this is basically the effect of running a game in subsampling. This looks like sort of 50% resolution scaling. To me, it's not good. It's borderline unplayable on this in terms of image quality, unless there's other things that you can do based around this setting. I'm not too sure. Yeah, it doesn't look anywhere near as good, but the effect on frame timings is slight on the CPU side, but GPU, yeah, 2-3 milliseconds benefit on this, it looks like. So I did just want to wait until night time just so we can see the stars in the sky. Now it might not be clear on the display mirror that I'm recording here, but within the headset the stars give a lot away on various modes in terms of anti-aliasing or no anti-aliasing at all, and in the headset they are extremely pixelated, just like pretty much everything else on this mode, to be honest. It just doesn't look great. And this is the performance mode, so we are getting the benefit of some in terms of performance on both GPU and CPU frame times, but it's not a great way to play this anyway. And let's go in and try a different setting anyway. So we'll turn that off and we'll go to a different form of anti-aliasing. We don't need to try FXAA, that's already been in there. It's sort of a slightly lower form of TAA, to be honest. It doesn't look as good. So let's go into DLSS and we'll start off with the quality setting on DLSS and see what we get. Okay, straight off, far better image quality, but at the cost, it seems, of CPU frame timings. Although as we wander around, we're sort of settling around 10 milliseconds. Sometimes it will jump up to 90 frames per second. So yeah, we're obviously not getting quite the performance benefit as we were with FSR in performance mode, as you would expect. But just looking up at the stars, you can see, at least I can see in the headset, that they look far better than they did in FSR. And I think the implementation, it was almost seen like, I've seen some things with FSR that it's almost like considered some kind of magic wand on performance, and I think it depends on the game that you're playing, and that may vary honestly depending on the system that you're running on as well. You might see more benefit on various systems and various headsets, honestly. One of the things I was going to mention, I meant to mention during this video actually, is the fact that although anti-aliasing in general, for me in the Valve Index, which is the headset I use and the one I'm using at the moment, looks blurry and it just isn't as good as having no anti-aliasing whatsoever, I think you might see more benefit in headsets like the Reverb G2 with anti-aliasing, simply because they have a higher native resolution, and the slight blurriness I get from anti-aliasing in the Valve Index might not be as present in something like the Reverb G2. But let's stick to the task in hand, and we'll go now to, let's go all the way to the opposite side to Ultra Performance DLSS and to see the effect of that. Okay, so yeah, this is poor image quality again, but we are seeing the benefit on performance. So this is closer to what we were seeing in the performance mode of FSR. This is very similar actually, and it looks like the frame timings are very similar too. In fact, you might get even more of a benefit on the FSR version of performance mode, but image quality, to me, this isn't really, it's not a playable image quality. Everything is very blurry, pixelated. And although you don't get the shimmering on the edges of things as you would without any anti-aliasing, it's not really something I would choose to play. I wouldn't choose to play the game like this. So that matches more or less with FSR, at least in some ways. There is differences in terms of how the stars look and things like that, but overall the image quality isn't really playable for me. So let's go on to one of the other new thing, which is deep learning anti-aliasing. So let's have a quick look at this. NVIDIA Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing is an AI-based anti-aliasing mode for users who have spare GPU headroom and want higher levels of image quality. Well, yeah, I'm not getting much GPU headroom, to be honest, so this might not be the setting for me, and all of these might actually benefit the flat game more than they benefit VR in some ways, just in terms of image quality and how it looks. So let's give this a try. So yeah, this one looks similar, but the performance is worse than DLSS, it seems, and that's probably because I didn't really have too much of any GPU headroom as the setting. I don't know a lot about this deep learning anti-aliasing, so I'll probably need to look into that a bit more. But although the image quality seems okay, it is running in constant reprojection now. The frame timings have gone up by 2 or 3 milliseconds. It's just not it's probably again not the setting I would personally use, although I can see a benefit to with this in certain situations. In the same way as DLSS, I would say that if you were sort of you wanted to use anti-aliasing, some form of anti-aliasing, and I would say DLSS or DLAA at the moment, from what I'm seeing just in this quick test here, by the way, this is not sort of set in stone, this is just what I'm seeing at the moment. Those are the two best options, and I would obviously gravitate more towards DLSS based on performance improvements around that. Let's just quickly finally go into turning anti-aliasing off completely. Okay, so yeah, to me, performance wise, it's on this particular setting, it's similar to what we were getting with just temporal anti-aliasing, really. 45 FPS. Yeah, it's locked in reprojection really on these settings, so I would probably lower settings down. But to me, the stars are pin sharp. They look really clear. Everything looks really sharp, but you do get that slight shimmer on the edges of things. And I did notice actually when I had a Reverb G2, I did notice that wasn't always present. Like in Elite Dangerous, when I used the Reverb G2 in Elite Dangerous, even without any anti-aliasing, I did notice that there was far less shimmer just due to the native resolution of that headset being higher. So it might be something which is just because I'm using the Valve Index at the moment, but I would take this slight shimmering effect, this pixel crawl on the edges of things, over a slightly blurry image. And of course that's just a personal preference thing, and I will probably still continue to play with either DLSS in certain situations or without any anti-aliasing at all. But let me know what you think in comments. From what I've shown here, what I've just had a quick look at, this is my first look at these new settings, so this is just some thoughts that I'm rattling off while I wander around this little area. But yeah, that's just my take on it anyway. Let me know what you think in comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Please consider supporting Immersed Robot on Patreon, or joining the Discord, or following me on Twitter, or better yet, all of the above. Links in the description below.